In this video I'm going to talk about the lockdown in Japan and how it's different to the lockdown in the UK. And also in this video I have footage from 3 areas in the centre of Osaka: Dotombori, Ame-Mura, Shinsaibashi. I was going to these areas anyway, so I thought why not get a little bit of footage on video, and I was safe. I practiced social distancing, so there's no issue there. So this first area that you can see is Dotombori Bridge, and this is right in the heart of Namba, which is an entertainment district in Osaka City. And usually this place is absolutely crammed full of people, both local people who live in and around Osaka, and also lots and lots of tourists from around Japan and overseas, and especially tourists from China. In fact, if you talk to some of the people who work in the restaurants and stores around here, you find out that sometimes 70% of their customers might be foreign tourists, and the majority of them from China. So when the international flights started dropping off, these restaurants and stores were hit really badly economically. Hopefully they'll be able to bounce back, and I guess we'll see in a few months' time whether that's the case. So one of the biggest differences between the lockdown in Japan and the lockdown in the UK is that the lockdown in Japan is more or less on a voluntary basis, as in the local government, so the prefectural government in Osaka, has asked stores, restaurants, pachinko parlours to close. The majority of places have decided to close, though there's no legal enforcement of the measures. Businesses could choose to go against the request, and there would be no legal enforcement, but there would be other ways of applying pressure, which basically amounts to public shaming. One of the sticking points for this lockdown was the pachinko parlours. So pachinko is a type of gambling. It kind of looks a little bit like pinball, except vertical and for money. And the government, local government, asked that these pachinko parlours close, and the majority, I think, decided to go along with, but a few decided to stick it out, and then they were publicly named and shown on TV as an example of a bad business that wasn't following the rules, or wasn't following the strong request from the local government. So that was a little bit amusing to see, in contrast to the UK, where the government seems to have a lot more power to shut down businesses if they choose to. And also there's no legal restriction on movement in Japan. The government has asked that people avoid travel unless it's essential, though there's no police enforcement of this request. You can go out as much as you like. You're not going to get hassled by the police for doing so. This is very different to the situation in the UK, where people are basically only allowed outside for food shopping, going to the doctor, and once a day for exercise. And that is being enforced by the police in the UK. So in the UK you've had people arrested for doing things such as going driving because they were bored, or in one more terrifying example, in Brighton, a man was tackled and arrested by police for sunbathing on the beach, which seems like a very heavy-handed approach to policing. So in the UK, the government has a lot of power to enforce a lockdown, and they're using the police to make sure that people obey the rules. Though in Japan, it's more on a voluntary basis, and the police aren't hassling people for sunbathing or for going for a walk. You can do that as much as you want. There have been some shortages in Japan in the supermarkets. So, like almost everywhere else in the world, there was a shortage of toilet paper. The Prime Minister actually directly addressed this and reassured people that the toilet paper sold in Japan is mainly produced within Japan, so it wouldn't be affected. That helped to calm people down, and now there's no problem buying it, though a lot of stores are still limiting the amount that you can purchase at any one time. I mean, other things that sold out, there was obviously a run on instant noodles, also bottled water. Recently there's been a shortage of bananas. That's the new thing to worry about. So the reason for this is that Japan imports the majority of their bananas from the Philippines, but the quarantine measures in the Philippines are meaning that they aren't able to produce and to ship as many bananas as they would usually do. And in addition to a few shortages of food items here and there, there's also been a general slight increase in the price of food across the board. Masks were previously like gold dust, but now they're starting to come back onto the market. So as you can see in the footage, several of the places I walked past were selling masks. Even places like clothes shops that, obviously don't usually sell them, have seemed to have acquired some, though they're selling them at inflated prices. So a box of 50 would usually go for less than 1,000 yen, but at the moment places are selling a box of 50 for 3,000 yen, so 3 times the price. And in addition to that, hand sanitizer is basically impossible to find. Well, you can find it here and there, though it's ridiculously expensive. Another thing that's particularly relevant to foreign residents like myself is that there's no issue with us being in Japan, though if we were to leave Japan, for example, just to go home to visit family in our own countries, then we would not be able to return. This is the case even if you are a permanent resident or you are a spouse of a Japanese national. So most of the people I know who have strong ties to Japan are staying put here at the moment because they know if they leave they won't be able to come back, at least for the moment, and no one knows how long this situation is going to continue for. And just one final thing, people might be wondering how bad is the situation in Japan, and I'm gonna say compared to a lot of places it's not that bad. Obviously it's very difficult to compare countries because every country has a slightly different way of counting cases and testing people. So just doing a side-by-side comparison of countries using the official figures might not be too illuminating. I'm not saying that the response to the situation has been perfect, though I think the government are doing a pretty good job. For me, the biggest contrast I can see between the response in Japan and the response in the UK and other European countries is that the UK and many other European countries have taken a lot more of an authoritarian approach, and people are a lot more restricted in what they can and can't do. I guess time will tell who took the better approach. Thank you for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed the footage, and if you have any comments, please leave them down below. Please also try and stay healthy, wash your hands lots, and also if you would be so kind as to give me a like and subscribe to the channel, I'd be very happy. Thank you.